Welcome back to Solving Equations, multi-step. We are going to continue to add our third, fourth, and final step in on solving our equations. So step one was to distribute. We've already addressed that in a previous video. Second step was to combine like terms, also addressed in a previous video. Step 3 and 4 are technically the same thing. You're going to solve using inverse operations, right? We've been doing that anytime we finish for previous ones, okay? But today we are specifically addressing when I have variables on both sides. So we're going to collect all variables on one side. And we're going to do this using inverse operations. Our final step is to check your work using substitution. And that means plug in your answer. So let's see what this looks like in action. As I have previously mentioned, drawing your wall is very important, especially when we get to our multi-step equations like this. Now, you have a couple of options here. One option is to move whichever variable has the smaller coefficient. The other is to always move the variable to the left. This is going to be based off of your personal preference. Sometimes it will be the same either way, but make sure that you have an idea of how to do both, so that way whatever needs to happen, you are set and understand what you're doing, okay? I'm going to move the smaller variable personally, and that means if it's more negative than the other, I'm going to move it like that too, okay? So I have 5n on one side and I have 7n on the other side. I need those to be on the same side of the equation. Anytime I jump the line, okay? Anytime you jump the line, you have to use inverse operations. I cannot simply combine them because they're on different sides, okay? So I'm going to subtract because I'm currently dealing with a positive 5n. So I'm going to subtract 5n from both sides. 7n minus 5n, because these are like terms, I cannot combine it with this because they're not like terms, right? So those are not like terms, so I can't do anything with that. So 7 minus 5n is 2n. I still have this 2. It's negative, so I'm going to bring it down. And then, of course, I have my positive 6 over here, because 5n and negative 5n cancel out. Continuing on, now I have a two-step equation, so I'm going to add 2 to both sides, as one does. Now that I'm down to one variable term. And my final step, of course, is to, if you said divide, you are correct. I'm going to get rid of that 2 with n and find my final answer of 4. Now I can check my work by plugging that 4 back in anywhere I see an n. 7 times 4 is 28 minus 2, which is 26. And 5 times 4 is 20 plus 6, which is 26, which means n equals 4 is correct. Another example we have, again, I'm going to draw my wall so I can see clearly what's on each side of the equation. I also want to make sure to do this so that way when I am adding or subtracting something from both sides, I don't accidentally end up adding it to the same side. Because if, for example, I move this plus 17x, which I'm going to do, and I accidentally rewrote it over here, I didn't actually help myself, but I may have accidentally combined it with this one over here. So I don't want to do that. I want to make sure I put it one on one side of the equation and the other addition or subtraction on the other side of the equation, okay? It's a very helpful organizational tool. If you have another better organizational tool that you use, please share it so that way other students can use it as well as Mrs. Jackson, okay? So I have my positive and negative 17x, that cancels out, and I end up with negative 3. Notice that I'm using the smaller of the two numbers. I have negative 17x and negative 6x. 17 is more negative, making it a smaller number. And I'm going to move these all to the right side this time. Now, if you are someone who prefers to keep all of your variables on the left side, that's fine. But it will still work out the same way. But please make sure that you are careful and that you are watching your signs, because it is easier to make mistakes when you have a bunch of negatives floating around. So I have positive 17 and negative 6, which gives me a positive 11x. I'm going to continue by subtracting 52 from both sides. I'm still going to end up with some negatives here, which is not ideal, but better than nothing. The positive and negative 52 cancel out. And since I have two negatives on the left, I add them together and get negative 55. I'm going to divide by 11 on both sides to get x completely alone. And negative 55 divided by a positive 11 is negative 5. And I again can check my work now. So I'm going to plug in a negative 5 on each side. And I do get an even answer, making this correct. Write this down, pause your video, give it a shot, and make sure to check in with Mrs. Jackson. Alright, so we're going to kick it up a notch. Remember how we put the order there, that we always distribute first, then combine like terms, then move everything to one side, and of course solve using inverse operations. So we're going to take a look at this, and it has multiple steps in this problem, okay? So firstly, I'm going to distribute the negative 7. Negative 7 times negative 6 is positive 42. Negative 7 times positive 8 is negative 56n. And then plus 3. And of course, I did not do anything over here with this stuff because there's no distribution over there. Continuing on, I'm going to combine like terms. Now I have a negative 16, positive 42, and a positive 3. The thing is that negative 16 is on one side of the equation and the other two are not. So I'm going to just drop down negative 16 plus 5n over here because they're not on the same side of the equal sign, so they're irrelevant to me right now. I'm going to rewrite the negative 56n because there's not another variable term on the right side. And I'm going to combine 42 and positive 3, which gives me positive 45. As I continue, now I'm going to get all my variables on one side. I want to move the smaller of the two variables personally, so I am going to add 56n to both sides because currently it's negative 56n. When I do that, I still have 45 on the right. Cancel those 56's out. And I'm going to add 56 to both sides, so I get 61n and negative 16. Continuing, now I have n and 16. I want to get n alone, so I'm going to add 16 to both sides, which of course gives me 61n and 61. Final step, I'm going to divide by 61 on both sides, and what seemed like a very complicated problem actually has an answer of 1. Alright, I want you to pause the video, give this one a shot on your own, and then I will go through it with you. There's a lot going on here. I am 100% going to be using my wall, and I'm going to go through step by step. Step 1, distribute. I don't have any distribution on the left, so I'm going to rewrite 10p plus 9 minus 11 minus p. I'll get to the combining like terms in a moment. Up here, I have negative 2 being distributed to the first set of parentheses. So we get negative 4p, and then negative 8. And now here, I have negative 3 being distributed to the second set of parentheses. So I end up with negative 6p, or minus 6p, plus 6. Continuing on, I am going to combine like terms. I have a lot of like terms on both sides, but I want to just combine the ones that are on the same side of the line, same side of the equals. Okay, so first I'm going to look for my p's. 10p minus p, I get 9p. And then I have positive 9, negative 11. Negative 11 is bigger than 9. I am going to subtract because I have two different signs, and I put minus 2. And then, of course, over on the left, I have negative 4p and negative 6p, which combines to get negative 10p. And then I have negative 8, positive 6, and I get negative 2 again. Continuing on, now I have variables on both sides. I need to get all of my variables on one side. To do that, I am going to add the smallest variable, so the one that is more negative in this case. So I add 10p to that side, I add 10p to the left side. I still am left with negative 2. And over here I'm left with 19 p's, and of course also still left with negative 2. Next, I'm going to solve my two-step equation. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. End up with 19p on the left and 0 over on the right. Now from here, this part for some reason trips a lot of people up. 0 is a valid number. Okay, it's not positive or negative, but it is a number and it is valid. So I'm going to get rid of the 19 with p by dividing by 19. And I'm going to divide 0 by 19. But here's the fun thing. 0 is a number, and every time I divide 0 by anything, I still get 0. Okay? Make sure you get all these notes written down, and then go give them a shot yourself.